Hi, I'm Lucia from Marathon Mates. Do you have any running superstition or routines? Is it normal to believe in having superstitions or to have routines as a runner? On this episode, we're going to talk about some of the routines and superstitions we have, as well we're also going to take a look at some of the more unique routines that runners have. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the flying runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone, I'm Lucia and welcome to episode number 80 of The Flying Runner. On this episode, we are talking about all things about routines and some of the superstitions that runners have, whether it's getting out of bed at a certain time or getting out of bed on a certain side of the bed or putting your shoes and socks on in a certain order, and the list goes on. Whatever it is, most of us generally have some kind of routine, and you'll also hear us discuss as we disclose some of our routines, as well as discuss what some of the more unique superstitions and routines that runners generally have. But before we get into any of that, as always, I'm joined by my marathon mates, Tony, Tim, and of course Tara. Guys, how's your week been and how's your running going? Let's start with Tony.
Okay. We've had a very quiet week after we got through New Year's Eve. We did 13K, of course, down at the Resolution Run. It seems so long ago. It does. But that was nice and hot and sweaty, but quite slow as my commitment to running slow at the moment is. And then on the weekend, we pretty much rested, I think. So Sharon and Tim went out for a 5K, and I did a massive long run of 6.5K. And I was going to back it up Sunday, but I was mentioning to Tim, I've got a new watch. I've got the Garmin 955, and it told me training readiness was low. So I listened to my watch, and I did not go out on Sunday. But no, in all seriousness, it's nice just lowering it down, I'm calling it a bit of a taper before I get back into training. So I'm having a taper week just to get rid of some niggles. I've got a bit of a twinge still on the Achilles, which sort of worries me with a bit of a heavy 6 months in front of me of training. The hip's not great, but that's manageable. So it's just nice not having any sort of responsibility or the pressure of having to log miles at the moment. It's just nice. So, and yourself, Team Alice, who wants to go first there, Tim or Tara?
That'll be me by the looks of what Tim's pointing at. We did the resolution run with Tony and Sharon on New Year's Eve. So that it does feel like a long time ago, doesn't it? It feels like a very long time ago now. So 13Ks, lovely run. We really enjoyed it. There was a little bit of trail on there, so that sort of surprised me a bit, actually. We got to see Ange, who's one of our regular listeners, and Phil, who has already been on the show as well, was down there. What else did we do, Tim? I've just been sort of running with friends as well, doing a little bit of trail running and having some fun. So one of my good friends, Diane, dragged me up for a trail run that was a bit flatter. Saturday we did park run.
Old Esk railway station park run.
Yes. Look, that was only 2 days ago. My brain is really not functioning well.
You got to go back one step further. We did New Year's Day park run the day after the resolution run at Paradise Point park run on Wednesday, and then we backed it up on Saturday by doing park run at Old Esk railway station, which is a beautiful little run. Hour and a half from Brisbane, west of Brisbane. So great little run and location.
Yeah, sorry. Yep, this year seems to have sort of got a little bit jumbled for me. And then I think because I didn't do my normal long run yesterday with Tim. So yesterday morning, I just was really, really tired. Didn't really want to wake up. So Tim went out and did his 21 Ks.
Yeah,
And
so he did the base.
He did the base, yes, the base run, and left me at home to sleep in. And then I woke up and it was about 6:45. So that was a huge sleep in for me. And I thought I would just get on the treadmill and just do a quick, easy 6 Ks on the treadmill while I had some chance to do it. So I'm just listening to my body and keeping my heart rate low and just trying to, keep everything under control. I'm not racing or training for too much at the moment, so I don't really need to be racing hard or running hard. So, yeah.
Yep. And,
excellent.
the 21 Ks was nice. It was nice to sort of just go out and run at a reasonable pace and have some fun with it. So really enjoyed it. And, 3 weeks now I've done 21 Ks, so I'm just starting to feel my way back into it again, and the body's starting to respond favourably, which is good.
So I'm losing track of days now as well. So on New Year's Day, so the plan was to do 25 Ks for 2025. Ended up with 20.12 or something like that. And it was only after later in the day, Marianne, a fan of the podcast, she ran 4Ks with me, God bless her. She goes, Luch, we should have done 20, well, you should have done 20 Ks and 250 meters to kind of make it 2025. And when I was looking back on my Strava, it only would have been an extra 100 meters. I'm just like, if I looked at my watch properly, like I probably would have done it. But at that point, I'm like, I just didn't care because it was getting hot again. And I'm like, Tara, very similar to you, not training for anything at the moment. So I thought, just wanted to get it done more for me, but still had a lot of fun out there. I was listening to my body. I was taking it slow when I felt like it. And then on the weekends, my weekend was consumed by cricket. So I'm a bit of a cricket fan, and I got to work at the Sydney Test on the Saturday, and then I went to watch it yesterday, Sunday, to watch Australia beat India. Day 3 of the Sydney Test has to be my favourite day because it's the Jay McGrath day where everyone gets dressed up in pink. It's such an amazing day. Seeing like I filled SCG, pretty much 90% of it dressed in pink, and the amount of money they raised was just absolutely insane. I think by the end they'd raised $9 million for the McGrath Foundation.
That's
crazy.
excellent, isn't it? Yeah.
And
we could talk cricket all day, couldn't we, Luch? What a great test. But hey, can I just share 2 things that I didn't mention? The 13K on New Year's Eve closed off my Big Kahuna challenge, the virtual challenge with the Honolulu Marathon. That gets finalized, I think, for everyone on I think it's tomorrow or the next day, January 7 or 8. And I'm so excited to see where everyone ranks. So I spent New Year's Day, instead of doing a park run, I spent it all uploading all our proof that we'd done the virtual. So that was a little bit of fun. It kept me running in December, which I think is always a positive. So, and do you know, I did have 2 things that I wanted to add, but I can't at the moment because I forgot what the other one was. So back to you, Luke.
I tell you what, though, just on that resolution run, I reckon that's a fantastic way to end the year. It was a great little event down there on the Gold Coast. It's 5 o'clock start for the run in the afternoon or the evening. There's a bit of a party atmosphere down there. There's lots of young kids and family down there. No one was really running it hard or going too seriously with it. It was just a nice little fun run. Yes, it was a bit cross-country-ish at times and a little bit of trail, but mostly concrete. But I really enjoyed it. It's one that I'll definitely go back to again and have another crack at. And then to end the year that way and then have a few drinks or whatever afterwards. And that's part of the finishing. You get a medal, a cap and a beer as part of the finishing, or a pair of good sunglasses. Really enjoyed that event, and one I'll definitely do it probably again at the end of this year. And then to wake up again the next morning and then to get up and go and do 5K at Parkrun, it's sort of a nice way to start the year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good to see Travis Island from Run the World there, and his was obviously one of the more popular tents there because everything was like some bargain price, so everyone was
$10.
tapping in.
Yeah, $10 singlets, running singlets. You can't beat that anywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was making an absolute mint, I think, off that one. But I'm sure that's what it cost him in the first place.
Now, Tara, you didn't buy any more singlets, did you?
No, my drawer is overflowing at the moment, and I'm actually going to have to cull some or put some into some sort of storage because this and anyone who's watching, you can see Tony's shirts in the background. I will either need to put the ones that I don't fit into anymore into some storage, I think. So this year's resolution is to eat a little bit healthier and get off the alcohol and actually focus more on not necessarily losing weight, but being a little bit more health conscious as to what I'm putting into my body. So yeah, no, definitely didn't buy a singlet. I do not need any more unless it's a larger size at this present point in time. So yes.
Well done. Well, thanks, guys. So now's for the time of the week where we talk about the news. Tim, so what's been happening around the world of running over the past few days?
There's been a little bit, not a lot. It's normally a quieter time of the year, but interestingly, on December 31st, so whilst we're running the resolution run, there was a run in Barcelona, a 5K road race event in Barcelona. And the 5K world record for the road race was demolished by the females, by Patrice Chabet. So she's previously held the world record, and then it was again taken off her by Agnes Ingetich in January this year. But yeah, Beatrice beat Agnes's world record by 19 seconds, believe it or not, 19 seconds over 5Ks. What's even better is that the world record that Beatrice set on New Year's Eve is faster than the track 5K world record, which currently stands at 14 minutes even and 21 seconds. So this race on New Year's Eve, Beatrice set the new world record of 13 minutes 54 seconds, making her the first female ever to run sub 14 minutes for 5Ks on either the track or the road, and that is just seriously fast. So a couple of the splits, at 3Ks, she was through 3Ks at 8 minutes 24 seconds. Like, who does that? That's just ridiculous. And at that point, at 3Ks, she was 8 seconds inside of the world record. At 4Ks, her 4K split was 2 minutes 44, and her 5th kilometer split was 2 minutes 46. So absolutely crazy. Beatrice Chabet is not somebody who's just come onto the scene either. As I said, she held the world record last year, or the year before, and in top of that, if you think back to the Paris Olympics, on the track, she won the double gold. She won the 5,000 meters and the 10,000 meters on the track. So she's got some serious form, and obviously has done everything right post the Olympics to be able to come back and set the world record at this Paris event. Looking at the video of it, she was just flying, absolutely flying.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, and what I'm amazed by as a result of this world record was looking back at Ruth Chepengetich's splits in the Chicago Marathon with her world record. And at the 5K mark, the first 5K for Ruth, she was at 15 minutes, which is like, it's only 1 minute behind what the previous world record was for the 5.
Correct.
So just amazing what these ladies are now doing. But to think that 13:54, I mean, I do that for 2K. So
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't
unbelievable.
it?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what I've noticed is there's been a lot of world records over the past 12 months. Most of them are in the female division. It's just getting crazy in the females. I'm not sure why the females are breaking all these world records. I suspect that there's probably differences in the way they're training now, but also the pacing. That they are paced by men, and even in this instance, Beatrice was paced by a man for the whole 5Ks, whereas the men at the front end of the field, at the pointy end, don't have anyone to pace them when they're going that quick. So maybe there is something in that. I don't know whether it's the shoe technology, whether it's fuel, whether it's training techniques, whether it's the recovery, or whether it's just pure genetics that all of a sudden we've got these females with these awesome genetics that are just beating these times around the world. It's just crazy. I have no idea. I have no idea how they do it. The other bit of news I've got, and we all love our running, and this one's probably a little bit on the other end of the scale. It's another world record that's been set, but in a different way. So we all love running the marathon distance. We all love to take it a little bit crazy at times. Last year, we all did a number of marathons, but Belgium ultra runner Hilde I'm going to get the name wrong again, Dozogny, has become the first known woman to run a marathon every day for a single year. It equates to 15,444 kilometers of running that she did in 2024. Remembering that 2024 was also a leap year, so she had an extra day of running in there. Every day she woke up and she had a marathon to run at some stage during that day. It's just crazy. In the process, she raised about 60,000 euros in funds for breast cancer research. And she says she does not want the feat of what she's done to be seen as an example of healthy living. Yeah, it's probably not healthy. It's probably obsessive. But it's more one of personal persistence, as she had to fight flu, COVID, blisters, bursitis, and a number of crashes where she actually collapsed and crashed out during those runs as well at times. So the mental strain, she says, is harder than the physical, which I can fully understand. She was able to do the majority of her marathons on a flat loop course around a stretch of water just outside the university town of Ghent, where apart from the dreary Belgian weather, more often than not, she also had a strong headwind to compete against in most of her marathons. And to ensure she covered enough distance to be able to get the Guinness World Record for the most marathons in a year, or the consecutive marathons in a year, she made sure she ran at least 42.5 kilometers to make sure she covered the distance, to make sure there was no errors in her measurements. She works full time as a bioengineer at a chemical firm. She had to start her work days early so that she could squeeze the marathons into the afternoon. So she's an afternoon runner, obviously. I don't know how she does that, but she would finish work in the afternoon, then go out and run a marathon, running mostly, in her words, at an easy 10 kilometers an hour. So around that 4-hour pace for a marathon. I talked about one of those crashes that she's had. In one of those instances, she crashed where she fell over and collapsed at 27 kilometers. She had to be taken to an emergency ward with a dislocated finger. As it took so much time to get that dislocated finger fixed, she decided that she would have been outside of the regulation times if it had been a standard marathon event. So she discounted the 27 kilometers that she did and started the marathon again later that evening to ensure she completed a marathon distance for the day, which so 42.5 plus 27 for the day. So absolutely amazing. Well done. It's definitely not something I would probably want to do, but I don't know about you guys. Anyone wanting to have a crack at something like that? A marathon a day, every day for an entire year?
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Definitely no.
No, that's
Especially with a dislocated finger, having done 27 kilometres and then going out and doing 42 as well. Imagine the pain in your hand as you're jarring up and down. I take my hat off to her. Like, it's a very tough feat. And as she was saying, it is more mental rather than physical. Just the demons in her head as she was going around and around the same loop as well would have just been horrendous. So, yeah.
Yeah. The thing that surprises me, Tim, is that she, in my mind, 60,000 euros to do that is,
It's not
I mean,
much.
it's not that much. And like, I think it's admirable that she's raised money for breast cancer research, but I'm thinking 60,000 euro. would have thought that she would have raised millions, based on a marathon a day for a year. So, good on her. I'm glad she says it's not an example of healthy living. I would never recommend that for anyone. And I'm glad she raised money, but I'm just confused that she should have been more supported somewhere along the line to raise a hell of a lot more than that. That's a massive effort.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, her name goes into the Guinness World Record. It just needs to be ratified, but it will be in there. But yeah, I don't know why she wasn't able to make more money than that. Maybe it started off as more of a personal thing, and then towards the end, she realized it was something a little bit more special. Don't know. I don't know all the details behind it, but that's every day. So as she said, she had COVID, she had colds, she had flu, she had bursitis. Every day, getting out and going and running a marathon, and I could imagine in the middle of Belgium, in the middle of a really cold, wet, snowy, sleety winter. You're finishing work at, even if you're finishing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it would start be getting dark and horrible at those times. So, very admirable, but it's not something I'd recommend anyone ever really having a crack at. Now, the last note I've got there is around the Sydney Marathon ballot stats. I was hoping that there would be some news on the ballot, but it's gone very quiet, I must admit, on the Sydney Marathon. I know the ballot is closed. I know later this week, by the time this episode is released, they'll start releasing the ballot entries and who's successful and who's not. But I thought there would have been some information out there now around how many people entered the stats, percentage of males and females, all the usual things we hear from all the other ballots, from all the other majors. But it's been radio silence, and maybe it's Christmas period. Here in Australia, everyone largely shuts down. The entire country largely shuts down for 2 weeks over Christmas. Maybe that's the case as well. But I would have thought that once the ballot closed, they would have had some stats out there, and they haven't put anything out there yet. Unless you know something, Lucia.
No, I think they'll probably release some stats after the ballot has been announced, and that's my guess. But it has been, Tim, as you say, like most people take these 2 weeks off, so so I dare say that could be one of the reasons. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do release the stats, because I think it'd be really interesting to see like what the percentage is and how many overseas people as well, because
Correct.
I think that's going to be really really interesting to see how many people overseas versus locally as well.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the sort of information I was looking for and hoping that I would have to be able to report tonight on this episode. But I'm really actually fascinated to know percentage of Americans, percentage of UK, percentage of rest of Europe attending this event, because it's going to be huge. It's going to be big for Australia. It's going to be big for world running, but it'll be interesting to see where we get. And hopefully, fingers crossed, it is predominantly Australians that are putting their hat in the ring and going for it, because that makes it more sustainable longer term.
And because I can't remember, did Robert Wang say if he was going to apply it?
He's already applied and he's coming.
Yeah.
Oh, he's coming.
Apparently, I saw it on his page that he has already booked it in. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of whispers on some of the influences that might be coming down under as well. So, not that I want to give them without confirmation, but I've been listening to a couple of podcasts, and there's the old tease and bait scenario of people saying, can't wait to get to down under, but I'm not there yet. So it'll be interesting once the ballot's done as to which of those influences that are out there, the likes of Believe in the Run and Kafusis of the world, who actually makes the trip to Sydney. It'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting if Matt Choi gets a ticket too after New York, but I won't go into that. And that's the news this week, Lucia.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. So now it's time to talk about what our routines or also superstitions are. Because I think the term So with the term superstition, it can mean slightly different things to different people. So that's why we're kind of talking about it more as routines. So guys, I'm going to open it up. What routines or even superstitions do you guys have to ensure that you guys run a successful race? Tony, I'm going to start off with you.
And I knew you would. So I actually really don't have superstitions per se, nor do I have a great deal of routine. It's probably the only routine that I have is that when I'm doing a long run in a training block, I'll make sure that all my gels are laid out on the kitchen table downstairs near my belt. I'll have everything that I need for the run in terms of nutrition and hydration ready to go, so I know where it is. And then I will choose my shoes, and then I will choose my outfit. So, and I fold them nice and neatly right next to my bed. So that's potentially the only when we started thinking about this episode, I'm thinking, what do I really have? Now, of course, most runners get up and go the loo first up, and of course, I'm no different there. And but and I guess one of the big things that I have, and I really don't like talking about bowel movements at all, but when there's a marathon or something in play, the number 3 becomes a lucky number for me in terms of those things prior to the run. But outside of that, just making sure that I'm going to bed, I'm comfortable, that all I've got to do is get up and not necessarily expand energy on getting all my stuff ready because it's there. I just need to do the lucky 3 and then get out the door. So that's it.
Tara, what about you?
Yeah, look, I've now that I'm probably a little bit more experienced with my running, I've changed away. I'm a bit like Tony, where I don't really have anything. But when I was doing my first half marathons and stuff like that, I used to have an RMA shirt. So for those that don't know, RMA stands for Running Mums Australia, and I brought a shirt or a singlet, a running singlet from them, and I ran my very first half marathon in that. And I actually did really all right. So my theory then was I had to wear that shirt for every marathon. Now that shirt obviously is well and truly no longer fitting me or in any state to really be wearing either. So I sort of probably went away from that maybe in around about 2019 when that shirt sort of started falling apart. But yeah, that was my big thing, is to make sure I had that shirt on. That was my belief that I would do a good run if I had that shirt on. I don't really have anything as such. Tim is very big on doing what Tony does, where he sets everything out the night before. And he will go around, and Tim will talk to you about it, but he like talks to himself. Have I got my hat? Have I got my headphones? Have I got my, and he'll talk to himself. And I'm just like, who cares? Just get up and go. Whereas Tim actually keeps me motivated and keeps me in a routine. So I don't have a routine because Tim does it for me. I really, my clothes come out in the morning. It depends on what I pull out of the drawer. So I have no routines at all. I do like to make sure that I've gone to the toilet before my runs, but no, really, I've got no routines. I'm really boring. I really am. So
Now, Tim, I'm curious about you.
I have a few little quirks, I must admit.
No.
So I am a big believer in the 6 Ps. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance, right? So plan. So like exactly as Tara said, we get everything out the night before, whether it's a long run, whether it's a race, even if it's park run, I'll get everything out and put it on the bench beforehand, have it all ready to go. On the morning of the run, I will wake up like Tony. His number is 3, mine is 2. I can normally get by with 1 any other day, but 2 is the number for me on race day or a long run day. If I don't do 2, it's only 1 or none, then I start to really worry about it for the rest of the run, and it plays on my mind. Then, I do the whole check: headset, yes; backpack, yes; gels, whatever, check it all. Shoes and socks are the other one that probably is my big thing. Always put socks on first, left first, and then right, and then shoe left, right, left shoe first, and then right shoe second. I never ever go right shoe. I never go sock, shoe, sock, shoe. It's always sock, shoe, shoe, and it's always left before right. So, and I guess the only other bit of our routine that we typically do is we do like to arrive at a race precinct early, at least an hour before the race, if not more. And again, it's not routine. It's not a superstition. It's probably more of a let's ensure we make it to the start line and that we're there and that we're not going to be locked up in traffic or some sort of an issue along the way. So even at the resolution run, 5 o'clock race in the afternoon, I think Tara and I were there at about 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon, just because we wanted to make sure we got there. During the run and during the race, I don't have a lot of superstitions. I don't take water at certain times. I don't take gels at certain times. The only thing I use is my routine is every 45 minutes when I'm in a race, I take some food or some fuel, but I'm not superstitious when it comes to any of that sort of stuff. I'll try new things on course. Definitely believe in the nothing new on race day approach, but I will, if somebody's got a beer there and I'm not running for a quick time, I'll have a drink of beer. I'll have a, try the different carb drinks or nutrient drinks on the course. I'm fortunate; I have a good stomach that can handle those things. But no, I'm pretty routine. I have a routine, and I believe in the routine, and it works for me. But I don't know. Do you guys have a particular method of putting socks on, or are you just random?
I think I think it changes each time. Like sometimes I'll put both the socks on and then the shoes. Yeah, I'm not set in the way in which I put my socks and shoes on. I don't have many routines either. Probably very similar to you, nothing new race day. But then also like if I'm going somewhere for a race, I do have the checklist. Have I got everything? And it's amazing how many times I've forgotten something when I've travelled for a race. Thank God it's never been when I've travelled internationally. So I think now I've got to get into the habit of writing the list down. And so that way I've got everything, because once, I think it was my first Goldie, I brought my iPod to listen to my music, but guess what I didn't bring? The headphones. So that was a good one.
Yeah.
Probably another routine. Probably another routine that I've got is race morning. Again, I'm sorry, I'm bringing up bowel movements. I've got to do number 2. Otherwise, I don't feel I can start the day. And then when I get to the race precinct, I had to do my nervous number 1. Just as I don't, even I've probably been to the toilet in my hotel about half a dozen times at least, still have to do the nervous number 1 when I get to the race. When I get to the race precinct. And I don't know if it's a routine or just because I've got a sweet tooth, I tend to find that I have a chocolate bar the night before a race.
That's
no
a sweet
idea
tooth.
why. Yeah. Sweet tooth. Nothing to do with running at all. Or if not, I figure I'll just burn it off the next day.
Yeah. And Tony, are you a sock, shoe,
Yeah,
or sock,
look,
shoe?
I listen to the Running Channel podcast, and Sarah on that always talks about sock, shoe. And I've always listened to that with a little bit of a smile, because I've always got to put my calf socks on before I go sock, shoe.
Yep.
And at the moment, I'm still wearing a bit of a support on my right ankle. So that's got to go on before I put the shoes on. Sorry, the socks on. So I go calf sock, left. So calf sock, left, calf sock, right. Then I'll go the support
Strapping
on my right. And then I go sock, shoe, so left to right. And then I will tie my right shoe first and then tie my left shoe. So just thinking about it, that's my routine.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
Single
So
knot or double knot, Tony?
A double knot. Otherwise, and one of the things that Sharon gets annoyed with is the amount of times her shoes come undone, and because she knows she's going to cop some smart ass remark from me.
and Tara, I know you probably don't have a routine, but you're not sock, shoe, are you? You don't have you're not
I have
pedantic on that.
absolutely no idea. I've never even thought about it. But you know what? Tomorrow morning when I go for my run, I'll be thinking, now am I putting a sock on first? I certainly don't put a shoe on first and then my sock. But, no, I have never thought about it. But I will look tomorrow morning and see what I do. Sorry.
There is some research that would indicate if you go sock shoe, that you're actually a psychopath. So I don't know if that's been peer reviewed or anything, but I've heard it whispered.
That's a curly fact. No.
I think that's a flying running channel fact. I think, isn't it? I've heard it on that one as well. But it is one of those things. I am very pedantic. It always has to be left shoe, and I'll go out of my way if I inadvertently even think about or put my right shoe on. I'll actually take it off and then put my left shoe back on, and then my right shoe. So I am. I'm pretty set in my way in that way. It has to be left first. And like you, I have cuff sleeves as well. So left cuff sleeve first, right calf sleeve, left sock, left shoe, right shoe, and always the double knots, because ever since I got taught how to tie a shoelace, it was always a double knot that I was trained for. So tying a lace without a double knot is not natural. Yeah. Sorry, Tara.
No, that's all right. The other thing that you have a superstition of, Tim, is you always give me a kiss, and it doesn't matter whether it's a long run or before a race or before park run, you will always kiss me and say good luck every single time. I don't know if you know this, but that's what you do.
That's just because we're married and I love you. That's.
I'm quite sure Tony doesn't do that to Sharon before every single run.
I'd get slapped, I think, if I was to give her a kiss before we go out to run. So
at the start of every single run, and
I think that's sweet, Tim. I think that is sweet. Yeah. I think that's cute.
At the start of the pier at Shorncliffe Pier, every single time.
Yeah,
and
I have to do it there.
Park run's the same. Race day's the same. Before he moves up into the corral, he'll give me a kiss and then head off. And he will always say good luck. And
you're making me sound like I'm a freak, Tara.
Here's one I'm going to throw out to you all. Do your socks have to match your hat or visor?
No.
I'm pushing it if my socks actually match each other.
No, there's no need for matchy at all. And in fact, the other day I went out and I had for the Gold Coast resolution run, I had my bright orange Triumph 21s on, and I do have a number of different orange shirts, and I made sure that I wore my blue one because the last thing I wanted to do was, and I have run in that outfit before with orange shirts and orange shoes, but matching doesn't necessarily worry me. In fact, we run in our Lightfoot socks, and they're our favorites, and they keep getting mixed up when they're either black or white. So I purposely got a pale blue pair just so I can say that's mine.
Yeah, I saw a guy yesterday when I was doing my long run who had the same coloured shoes as his shorts and shirt, and it was exactly the same shade. And it's just like, why would you go to that much effort?
That's a big one.
I don't think that way, and at the end of the day, I don't want to look that way either. I like looking a bit ragged and wearing my own shirts that I choose to wear, not just because it's the colour, but each to their own, I guess.
Don't worry, Tim, you always look ragged.
And I've shaved now. I've got rid of the beard that I was growing for the last 2 weeks, so that's gone.
It was impressive. And that's why a lot of people love their black shoes, because black just goes with everything. So, but they also heat up your feet. But anyway, that's my belief. So.
Now, guys, similar to superstition, Do you guys have any mantras you may say to yourself while you're out there running?
Finish lines, not finish times.
Yeah, no. I can honestly say no. And probably the only time I've come close to having a mantra was, and I've forgotten the lady that said it. Someone was after they'd achieved something, and it might have been I've completely forgotten, but she said all she kept saying, oh, Chep and get it. She said it prior to the Chicago. She said it's going to be a beautiful race. And she that was her mantra. That was her mantra when they interviewed her 2 days before the race. And so it was interesting because I said to Sharon prior to New York, I said, we need to create that mantra that it's going to be a beautiful race. Anyway, no doubt you can probably tell where I was told to go by suggesting that it was going to be a beautiful race. But that's probably as close as I've ever gone. I don't give myself too many pep talks while I'm running. And there's normally a reason why I'm out there running, whether it's, just a nice and slow and steady run. And I think Luch, just going back on the point of missing your headphones, I forgot my headphones last Saturday, and I think that created much of the drag because I was in my head, and it was a hard run for me, even though you look at all my stats that I can now get from my new watch. It didn't appear to be a hard run, but because I was in my head, it was a hard run. So. But yeah, I don't really have too many mantras at all.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't have a lot. I've tried doing the whole mantra thing, and I must admit I don't get it necessarily. I find that you say the same thing 3 or 4 times over, a dozen times over, and it's like, yeah, but I'm still feeling the same pain. I'm still feeling tired. I'm still really wanting to just stop and walk for a little while. But you hear other people, and the mantra thing works for them, that it triggers something in them to keep going. It triggers them to keep running and go beyond where they would normally stop. But for me, I think I'm probably using it maybe a bit too late. If I was to use a mantra, it's probably one that it's a bit like fuel. By the time you feel that should have taken some fuel, it's too late. And I've probably been the same with mantras. I've probably used them at the wrong time rather than earlier on. So I'm all for those who do use mantras. I get the understanding behind it. It's all about positive thinking and positive thought processes and resetting yourself and triggering, certain key things to move you forward. I get all that. I've just probably never had the right training or coaching or interest in them, I must admit.
But it's interesting, Tim. Some of our guests that we've had on have actually talked about a couple of things that they do to get them through some of those tough periods in a marathon. So Kim Tudjman talked about the imaginary bands that she would have on her arm, and every, I think, 7 she would have, and then every 6 kilometers she'd theoretically throw one away. And then we talked to Sarah Coltrona in one of our early episodes, and she talked about having her music teed up. So then when she knew when she was going to be challenged, a song would come on that would remind her of a person or a family member, and that would get her through that tough period and stretch. And so you can certainly understand how they work. I just have never really, and being completely honest, never really put in the effort to understand how I could use that to probably help myself. Probably the only thing I do is I make sure that I'm using my arms are moving, which isn't a mantra per se. It's more about understanding when I'm tired, I don't want to lose my form, and I want to try and use the arms to generate some semblance of running form when I'm tough, when I'm really in those tough situations.
Yeah. Lucia, do you have a mantra?
I've got a couple. I was at a running film festival a few years ago, and it was a series of short films. And in one of them, this guy kept on saying, because I think he was running through the forest or something. Like I can't remember the movie now, but the one thing I can remember was his mantra was "Who can I can." So sometimes I'll yell that to myself when I need to dig deep. And another one is you've got this, because I actually wear two bands around my wrist in races and actually wore them in Boston. One was you've got this, and the other one, it's such an important one that I can't even remember what it says now. So sometimes I'll just literally look down at my wrist, look at them, and it's like, yep, okay, let's go. Or sometimes I'll say to myself, sometimes I'll say, you've paid for this, so just suck it up and do it. So sometimes I can have arguments with myself. So I find for me they work because it's just those few words. Like I don't use them all the time, but it's just in those moments when you just need a quick pick me up. It's like, yep, I've got this, let's go type thing.
And do you find that it gives you that longevity, or do you find that 10 minutes later, 3 minutes later, 30 seconds later, you're still craving something to keep you going?
No, I find because I think at the point when I use it, I need to use it. I may need to use it again, let's say in 10K's time, but I don't find I have to use it within that short time. And because I've got them on my wrists as well, because at one point I even had like a shoe tag printed not long after I lost a family member 7 years ago. So it was Believe Achieve. So I had that on my shoe, and each time I was running with that shoe, I would just look down at that and then I would think of my cousin and just go type thing. So I don't necessarily have to say it. I've got the things on me that I just need to look at it and kind of go.
Yep.
Now, just
Yep.
before
I get the concept. I just got to learn to use it again. I guess if a bit more and work out when I do it, I think, and it's probably something you train with a little bit as well on your long runs.
Now I'm going to go off run sheet. So Tim, I do apologise for this. So I know, but I think it's going to be worth it. So really off topic, we packed up our Christmas tree today. Well, my mum and my sister did, and I had.
Have one of those.
Yeah, we got one of those. It's a Dopey Christmas ornament.
So, 6 years. This time, 6 years, I was making my way over to Orlando, and it would have been our 6-year friendship anniversary.
There you go.
Happy anniversary.
See, I told you it was worth it. No, I wasn't. I kind of hate this time of year because seeing all the Facebook memories, it's like, oh, I want to do Dopey again. I can't wait to see people talk about the queues of the expo, people buying stuff, seeing it on eBay, people complaining about the fake cheese not being in the snack box. I didn't get to the ride in time for the marathon. Bring on the complaining.
Well,
I just hope.
Sorry, Tim.
You go.
I was just going to say, if it's 6 years, I think in 4 years' time, I reckon 2029, we need to convince Tony to come over and do Dopey, and we'll do it as a 10-year anniversary, guys.
You know, the worst thing about Dopey in my eyes is getting up at 2:30 in the morning. So I think everything else is okay. And a big shout out because I know Sarah Coltrona is running Dopey this year again. So, and she was so excited looking at her Facebook posts. So good luck, Sarah. So
my only hope is everyone gets good weather, and it can be a bit fickle over in Orlando at this time of year. They can get some big storms come through, and Run Disney is very, as we said earlier on in this episode last year, Lucia's episode, they are very conscious of their liabilities, so they are risk adverse when it comes to any bad weather and stopping the races. So fingers crossed everyone gets good weather for the races.
And now we're going to go back onto the run sheet just to put Tim at ease. So I'm not going to take the credit. I'm not going to take the credit for this next one. Tim's done the research. So some of the common running, I know. So some of the common running superstitions are writing on your hand keywords or mantras, wearing lucky socks, underwear, shorts, and so forth, certain warm-up routines, eating the same meal before you run, talking to yourself at either the start line or even in the mirror before a race. Nothing new on race day, which we kind of all agree on. And don't leave the house or hotel until you've done number 2. Always lie flat the night before. Watching videos or if not a certain movie the night before any race. Never cross the finish line before the start of the race. And we can expand on that one. Do you always use the same bib pins for every race? The same staged photo, putting the same staged photo beforehand on social media. Never wear the race shirt before competing, because the amount of times I've seen, I think the funniest one I saw was a lot when I did Berlin, seeing people wear the finisher t-shirt while they were running and
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah, that bad juju if you wear the race finisher shirt before you finish the race.
Now, I also did some research, Luch, and I do have a couple to add to that list that Tim put together. So, and I've got to laugh because I've just seen one that I thought was really funny based on what we've already talked about, and it's avoiding a pre-race kiss. Some runners think a kiss or a hug before a race could bring bad luck. So I think that was pretty funny considering what we've talked about. Some really interesting ones: avoiding certain race numbers. I'm steering clear of race bibs with unlucky numbers on. I'm sorry, you don't have a choice, so take it or leave it. And the one I found really interesting: spitting over your left shoulder to ward off bad luck before a race, which, like, seriously, do people do that? And then the last one, which I know that Lucia does all the time, crossing the finish line with a smile. Yeah. So I think there's some decent ones. Avoiding the pre-race kiss, Tara.
So when Tim comes in for that kiss next time, I just duck the head out of the way. Right.
There's also things like people not washing their shirts. Like, seriously?
That's gross.
You're almost guaranteed to be running by yourself if that's the case. So
you're washing the luck out of it. I get that. I don't always wash out the jerseys when my team wins their jersey. When I'm sitting on the couch and I'm wearing my team's jersey, I don't always wash it after they've played, because they've won, and therefore if I wash it, I'm washing the luck out of it.
Yes, and Tim sits by himself during football time as well, just letting everybody know.
I like the one about the staged photos. So there are individuals out there who obviously stage the same photo before every run on social media, and maybe
Tim?
Tara and I are guilty of this, because
no,
if you look
Tim...
at our Sunday runs, we always have the same 3 shots on our Sunday runs on our social medias. So there's always the jetty in the background, and then Tara with Mickey Mouse ears or rabbit ears for some reason. I don't know how that happens,
and Tim with his tongue out.
Yeah. But no, it is interesting. Everyone has these little superstitions or quirks or routines or whatever you want to call them. In most instances, they're pretty minute. They don't really impact anyone. They don't really cause any harm to anyone. But it's funny how we all have a little quirk here and there around, making sure that we do things a certain way and ensuring we get through it all. It's quite interesting.
Well, guys, thank you very much for that. Now we're going to move on to a important part, which will be coming up shortly. Is Tony, have you got any update on the Fast 7?
Yeah, I think Luch and I are now in negotiations with what this looks like. So we had a bit of a chat before. We still have not received any feedback from any listener, and that's okay. But we really want to make sure that the Fast 7 has some really good value for the people listening. So Luch and I are going to develop that 7th question together, and we need to do that in 2 weeks because we've got Reese coming on the show. So it'll be interesting what we come up with, no doubt. But we're just going to do it, aren't we, Luch?
Yep. Sorry, listeners, we gave you enough chance, and so Tony and I, we're taking this one. Oh, now, guys, and before we finish up, it's time for everyone's favourite part of the podcast, a tip from Tim. Tim, what's your tip for the week?
Okay, thanks, Lucia. So many of us are seasoned runners, but there are listeners out there who will be getting into running because it's a New Year's resolution. I want to get fitter. I want to get healthier. So I've got 4 key points that I think will make it easier for people to get started and to keep on going with their running. The first one is you need to make it a default. You need to do the same routines as we've talked about and start to develop your own routines. So, laying out your gear the night beforehand, making sure it's all together, setting an alarm, getting up and getting going as soon as the alarm goes. As we talked about 2 weeks ago, the science behind it, if you get up and go for a run straight away, particularly early in the morning, you're a better runner than somebody who lies in bed and takes forever. But making that default, making it happen on the same days every week, building up the routine, running on a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever it is, that becomes your default, and building in that routine. The second part to it is to try to look for a way to make it social. So whether it's a group run or a social run with some people that you know, or whether it's with a running club, or even just going to a park run where you can run with other people, have a bit of fun, and you don't realize that the effort's a lot easier when you're running with other people. You're talking. You don't feel the strain as much when you're running with other people. It could also be, if you can't run with other people, that you make it social by listening to this podcast, for instance, or some music, or something else that helps you, interact or have some sort of interaction with people. The third part is you're not going to go out and set PBs in week 1 of the new year. You're not going to set PBs in week 3, 4, or 5. You're not going to set PBs in January. You will set little PBs or little milestones that you'll set along the way, but just take it easy for the first bit. Running's one of those things that it takes a bit of time to build up and get you going and feeling good about how to do it. So nice and slow and steady, make it comfortable, and just keep going. And if it is getting a bit tough, or you are struggling with it at times, walk. It's okay to walk, or Jeff, and we've got a whole episode back on sometime last year where we were talking about jeffing, which is a period of time walking, a period of time running, and you might be 1 minute walking, 1 minute running, or whatever. Okay, and the last bit here is to get up racing. Get out there and sign up for an event. Set yourself a challenge. Get a name or a goal event that you can train for, that you can take your time with. I'm not saying go and sign up for something in February or March, but maybe June, July, August. Sign up for an event. Give yourself something to aim for that will keep you going. And they're the sort of 4 main key points. That's set a default, or make it a default, make it social, keep the pace easy, and get racing. They're my 4 tips to getting into it and keeping it going in the new year.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
So, guys, just before this episode is about to end, and just before we do, Tony, what's on for next week?
All right, thanks, Lucia. Next week, we're talking about the Marathon World Majors. We will be talking specifically about what is the best order to run them in. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, because we've all done slightly different orders, and we've all had 3 each separate marathon to finish on. So whether it's starting in New York and finishing with Sydney, or it's starting in Tokyo, finishing in Chicago, we'll dissect the races and share with you the order that we would run them all in, now that we've been there and done that. So it will be an interesting, and I will put in some time to think about this, because as our regular listeners may know, the experience of the 6-star tent for Sharon and I was just a little underwhelming. So we think it's going to be another fantastic episode, and we can't wait to catch up on this.
Excellent. Thanks, Tony.
I'm really looking forward to that one, actually. I reckon that'll be a great episode.
I think it's going to be a bit controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, interesting. I was sorting out my shirts to go on this rack beside me, and I came across a shirt that, so back in 2020, we had actually scheduled ourselves to do Tokyo and Chicago in the 1 year and get back on the world major. So we did nothing in 2019 after running New York in 2018. And I'd forgotten that we actually had plans to do Chicago. So that would have been an interesting one. So instead of finishing at Tokyo, Tokyo would have been our second one. So maybe we were on the right path back then before that thing called COVID came and infected the world.
Minor details with that.
No.
Because ironically, I was meant to do Chicago in 2020 as well.
Oh, truly. We would
Yeah.
have met much earlier than Luch.
Thank you, Tony. So this ends what has been another amazing episode. Hopefully we've been able to show you that you aren't alone in having routines or even superstitions. Guys, as usual, I've had a lot of fun talking with you tonight about all our little quirks and routines. So thank you very much for joining me. And as always, we love recording these podcasts for you, our wonderful listeners. We love hearing your feedback, but in case of this seventh question, apparently there was no feedback. So please like the episode wherever you are listening to it and leave some comments, especially about the seventh question, or send us a message via our social media pages or on Instagram, Facebook, and Messenger, or also via our email address at happyrunning@flyingrunner.com. As usual, video of this episode will be available at Spotify and YouTube, and audio will be on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. Guys, and remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of The Flying Runner. Until then, happy running and happy New Year.
Happy running.
Happy running.